Hello everyone, Draco Magnius here once again for your next lesson in Wizardry. Today, my students, we will be covering the spells we got from Horace and Solomon, Serenading and the Familiar's Retreat, Bashura, which is the Trial of Strength, our newest familiar, and a story about soulmates. We're going to start off our lesson today with spells as per usual, and we start with Draw Poison. Cure the effects of venoms and toxins. Nothing perturbs a wizard more than poison. With a good reason. Even small amounts have been known to cause untold distress. Should you or your companions be affected in such manner, be sure to use this magical cure. No matter how deeply the poison has taken hold, there is always hope, if you are able to draw this rune. Now let me show you how to draw this rune, just to make sure that you all are safe from poison. Alright, and now we will cover the Draw Poison rune. This one's a little complicated, there isn't much I can really liken it to. So we're just going to take this slowly. You draw across, then down, diagonal, and across. So like an upside down 4 with a little leg at the end. And then we do a rainbow. Or a frowny face, whichever you prefer. I say rainbow because that's more positive. Again. Across, down, diagonal, across to the left. And rainbow. And now fast. That was actually a little disjointed. Let's try that again. Alright. Now we move on to our next spell. And next on the list is the Bridge spell. Pretty helpful. Find a way across even the greatest of impasse. A wizard's progress is frequently obstructed by rivers, gorges, and other such inconveniences. This spell allows you to build a bridge across such obstacles and proceed with your journey. The search for truth must go on, after all. And now we show you how to draw the rune for Bridge. Alright, and next we have Bridge. The best way to describe this one is you make a smiling face and then strike through it. So slowly this time. Smiley face, strike through. And now fast. Alright, but now we move on to our last rune of the day. Alright, and the final spell of the day is going to be Broom Broom. Breathe life into a cloud sweeper and take to the skies. Cloud sweepers are the latest fad in flying contraptions. Semi-magical, they require a little help to get off the ground. Help in the form of this absurdly named spell. Simply knowing this rune won't enable you to fly one, however. That apparently requires a certain amount of innate ability and a great deal of training. Be sure that learning to fly a cloud sweeper does not distract you from your wizarding studies. But now I will show you how to draw this spell, though I don't know where you would get a cloud sweeper to perform it, so I don't know how useful it's going to be to you specifically. Alright, now we do Broom Broom. This one is really simple. You just draw the shape of a broom, and then draw a line. So basically you're drawing a zooming broom. So, once more, doing it slowly this time. We're going to draw the rune. Draw the broom, rather. I went a little far on that one, actually. Overextended the rune. Cross, up, diagonal, down, and then across. And now fast. Alright, that does it for our runes today. Now we move on to, I believe, Bashura is our next study subject. I will see you in just a moment. Alright, and we're actually going to be covering Teaching for Aspiring Wizards number 9, about Serenading and the Familiar's Retreat. Serenading refers to the act of playing music to a creature in a bid to persuade it to become your familiar. Those in possession of a spirit harp should try serenading any creature that appears to be receptive, since such creatures will invariably agree to become familiars at the conclusion of a suitable song. Note that some creatures are more reticent than others, and may refuse to listen to your overtures. All creatures are more receptive to powerful wizards than feeble ones, however, so treat them to a taste of your magical power, and they may eventually be convinced to take notice. In practice, this usually means besting a creature on the battlefield, further proof, if any were needed, that while the true wizard should ever petition for peace, he should be well versed in the ways of war. The other thing we must cover, of course, is the Familiar's Retreat, now that we have access to it. While the creature cage provides a convenient way for Wizard to carry familiars around, its capacity, unfortunately, is limited. Should you acquire more familiars than the cage will comfortably accommodate, some will have to be left in the care of the familiar retreat. The retreat can be accessed in most towns, as well as several other locations. Note that the retreat is no mere hole in the ground. It is magically connected to another dimension, and has been known to facilitate some rather unexpected encounters. But, with all that said and done, we now move to cover Bashura, the boss we bought in the recent episode. Legendary Beasts number 6, the Moving Monument, a guardian of many limbs. This large stone statue is to be found in the Temple of Trials, an ancient structure that lies to the north of the Shimmering Sands. Though it appears to be an ordinary monument, there are persistent rumors that it moves around during the night. Indeed, many wizards in training have reported seeing it with its eyes ablaze in the darkness, gesticulating silently with its 4 arms. But now we move on to the actual entry for Bashura, and here he is, Bashura. I'll let this go for a little bit while we wait for him to go through all of his animations, because, I mean, it's a big thing, and I do want to show them off. Alright. I think he's almost done with all of them. Oh no, he's still got more. Wow. Ah, yes, I remember that attack. Good times. Good times. Alright, I think that was all of them. So now we move on to the actual entry. Or maybe not, because that looked new. Okay, that one is definitely an old one. Bashura, the final challenge that awaits those who would prove themselves worthy of the title Sage. Though it appears to be made of stone, Bashura comes to life when people approach, and shows no mercy, as it brings its 4 mighty arms to bear upon them. It is resistant to fire, but weak to water, as I said in the episode. It's unknown what sign it's born under, and its habitat is, of course, the Temple of Trials. It drops the spirit of the temple, and its notable attack is... slashes wildly and continuously with both swords, causing great damage to all enemies in the vicinity. Alright, and that does it for our good friend Bashura. Now we move on to our new friend, familiar friend, rather, the Drago. Alright, and here we have the Drago, domesticated creatures who are incapable of fending for themselves. Their adorable round eyes seem tailor-made for the task of extracting human affection. They are resistant to fire, but they are weak to water. They are born under the sun sign. It is unknown where to find them, unknown what items they would drop. But they can know. Phantom Fangs, Whirligig, and Hot Huff. Now, before we move on to the forms that a Drago could be... oh, it's so adorable. Anyway, before we move on to what forms it can be, I want to mention that in this particular entry, I'm going to be mentioning what I'm going to evolve our Drago into, and the reasoning behind it. That's because I actually looked up for this particular one which would be the best. The other ones I'm really just going to go off the cuff with. But now we move on. The Drago evolves into the Dragette. Dragettes have adopted a pastel skin tone in an attempt to become even more adorable. Though they look meek, they are in fact extremely spirited and despise losing. Like the previous form, it is resistant to fire and weak to water, and born under the sun sign. Also unknown where to find it or what it would drop, but it knows crosswind and more. Now, its next form that it can choose to evolve to is the Dragamuffin. Having finally realized their own strength, these creatures make for determined fighters. Even other members of the Draconis genus are impressed by their steely gaze. Now this form is resistant to fire, but not weak to water, surprisingly. It is born under all the sign as the others, unknown where you'd find it, unknown what it would drop, but it knows Pyropuff, Ear Splitter, War Cry, and more. And the last version of the Drago is the Bedraggle. These creatures have become so reliant on humans that they now must spend most of their time sleeping. Though they possess great power, they rarely make use of it. The Bedraggle is resistant to darkness, unlike the other forms. but all of the other information is exactly the same. They can know Siesta Psi, Wind Tunnel, Enlighten, and more. Now, how we're going to evolve our Drago Angelus is I'm going to evolve Angelus into the Dragamuffin. As I said, I did look this information up online. My reasoning is, well, because of this one. Dragamuffin has a 50% fire resistance, where the Bedraggle has a 50% darkness resistance. The darkness resistance is nice for late game, but fire attacks are more common in the wild, so the Dragamuffin's fire resistance is very useful. On top of this, the Dragamuffin gets better moves in regards to the tricks it can learn. You don't see everything it can learn in these entries, but some of the other moves it can learn, I have the thing open so I can say, are, Dragamuffins are great, but then you also get Flame Fan and Parp. I don't know what exactly those do, but they sound powerful. The Bedraggle can learn Drop Chop, which might be an interesting move, but Bedraggle has lower attack damage, and since Drop Chop sounds like it's a physical move, then that's probably not all that great. They both start with Phantom Fangs, and I guess... Oh, it mentions they also get Parp, both of them, so I don't know why it mentioned that earlier, but whatever. The reasoning behind getting Dragamuffin is a better skill set, does more damage because it's more attack-oriented, and the color scheme is also a bit nicer. That's what the thing says online. I like the Bedraggle's, I like its color scheme, though. I mean, I do like the Dragamuffin color scheme, but I think the Bedraggle's color scheme's a little better. But that's neither here nor there. Alright, I'm done fawning over my favorite familiar. Now we move on to the very last section of the video, the story we got, My Other Self. The Sixth Tale, My Other Self. On a hilltop. What follows is the extraordinary story of an ordinary little girl. When I was a little girl, I had the reddest hair you'd ever seen, and I lived with my mother in a small village tucked away in the hills. I was never any good at magic, but I loved gardening, and I could grow all sorts of flowers and medicinal herbs. Behind my house was a low hill from which you could enjoy a wonderful evening view. I used to walk to the top of it every night, to sit on a big old root and watch the sun go down. One day, my mother cut her hand on a glass that I had broken. Though she washed the wound straight away, just as she'd always taught me, the cut soon became infected, and by the next morning, she had a very high fever. I took care of her the best I could, of course, but several days passed without any improvement in her condition. Then, one night, after I cried myself to sleep with worry, I woke with a start to find myself standing in front of a strange door. I opened this door and walked through it to emerge on top of my favorite hill. It looked just the same as it always did, except for one thing. There was someone else there, sitting on my root and sobbing quietly. I took a sharp breath and thought to myself, could the girl be sitting on the root actually be me? But her hair was just as red as mine, and it glittered like a ruby in the setting sun. The bright blue bird. I was feeling quite sad myself, but the girl sitting on the root seemed absolutely inconsolable. Feeling sorry for her, I asked, "Are you alright? Why are you crying?" At this, the weeping girl lifted her face, giving me another shock. It was exactly like mine! I was careless, and my bird flew away, she said. Oh, I did love it so. So that's why you're crying. I've been careless too, as it happens. I made my mother sick. I thought for a moment, then asked, what kind of bird was it? It was blue, bright blue. It was so very beautiful. My mother's eyes are blue as well, I sighed. But they don't seem to sparkle like they did before she took ill. We carried on talking for a while, and before long, we became firm friends. She loved gardening too, and was enjoying gazing at the sunset from the crest of the hill. It seemed we had absolutely everything in common. Eventually I said, "Here, Take this. It's a flower I grew. It's called a warm welcome. And birds love it. Perhaps it might make your blue bird come back. I had already put some of these flowers at my mother's bedside to try and make her feel better as well as some in her hair. Thank you, the girl smiled. Oh my, it really does smell wonderful. Hey, would you like to come back to my house? I nodded and off we went. Down the hill together and into the girl's house. She placed the flower I'd given her next to her window. Before long, he heard a sound. Beep, 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 cheep, cheep, cheep. And the blue bird flew through the window. Chee-chee! Shouted the girl. Recognizing her missing pet, the bird had flown straight for the vase that held the flower. It seemed a little unsteady, as though one of its wings was injured. But I couldn't help feeling happy that the warm welcome I'd given the girl had made her bird come back. Waking from the dream, all of a sudden I was in front of the strange door again. I walked through it and found myself lying in bed once more. It was just a dream, I sighed. Then I threw off the sheets and went to my mother's bedroom. Much to my surprise, though, I found she wasn't there. That's when I heard a sound coming from the kitchen and ran downstairs. Mother! I cried. Good morning, she replied cheerily. You must have been wondering where I'd got to. I just felt so much better when I woke up this morning. Now then, would you like some breakfast? I'm famished. My mother's blue eyes were sparkling once more. Every person in this world has a soulmate, a person in another world, with whom they share a soul. Soulmates' destinies are intertwined, and occasionally they even overlap. So should you ever chance step through a strange door, do not be surprised if you meet someone just like you. But with that, we end this lesson for the day. See you guys in the next one.